everyone, and welcome back to my yearly roundup of all the weird news that has happened in 2024. I'm back today with a few more weird tales from the year just past. This isn't your usual news roundup, this is strictly the stuff that makes you go, wow? As quite frankly, the regular news is far too depressing and genuinely terrifying. So instead, we'll be exploring a few lighter, weird and wonderful stories that may have not made it into the regular newspaper during 2024. Now, that's not to say that these stories don't dally with the dark side, because they most definitely do. But there's also some light-hearted strangeness too. But don't worry, if anything is going to be hideously awful, then I'll give you a heads up first. So with the disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into May. Kick off today's stories. If you're new here, then hi, my name's Nikki and I make podcasts, YouTube videos and TikToks about all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, which I have a sneaking suspicion that you might be, then please hit subscribe so we can hang out together again. And if you're not new here, then welcome back, old fiend. Nice to see you again. Now, this series takes a lot of planning and effort to produce, and it's just me making everything. So if you fancy supporting what I make to help me create this series and beyond, then please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Macabre London for lots of bonus content. Now, let's get into the episode. Now, it's not unheard of for children to make things up. A strange concept, I know. So when a mum in North Carolina had persistent nightly complaints from her 3-year-old daughter, Sailor, that there were monsters in the wall, she chalked this up to just normal bedtime worries of a toddler. As the family had recently all watched Monsters, Inc. together, the Disney Pixar film in which monsters conjured in dreams power the monster world using the screams of human children, which when I lay it out like that, it does sound pretty terrifying. Well, Sailor's parents just thought she had been scared by the film. To counteract the nighttime scaries, Sailor was given a spray bottle of monster repellent, aka just water, by her mum just in case she got scared during the night, and the room was sprayed before Sailor went to bed. However, when Sailor's mum, Ashley, was confronted every night by the scared toddler for months on end, she began looking a bit more into what might be causing her daughter to worry so much, suspecting there might just be a bit more to the story. Eventually, Sailor was able to pinpoint the specific area the noises were coming from at night, and it led them both to Sailor's walk-in closet, which, well done Sailor, you already have more than me at 3 years old. After working out that the closet formed part of the outer wall of the house and was near a chimney, Ashley figured something must be inside it. It was then she realised an unusually large amount of bees hanging around near the chimney and vents of the house, and it clicked. What Sailor was hearing wasn't monsters growling in her closet, it was bees, and a hell of a lot of them. Now, unlike most bee infestations in homes, it's usually pretty common that they will start appearing inside the home itself, which will alert the owners to their presence. However, these insects had managed to keep themselves out of the home and thus go undetected. Calling in backup, Ashley got in contact with a bee specialist and they came to the property with thermal imaging cameras and found an enormous mega hive of bees had taken over the insides of their walls and also their loft. Now, the bad news for Ashley was that there was no easy way of getting them out, and the only way to evict the bees would be to rip open the walls. Once the family were removed and the house taped off, the bee specialists got to work. They managed to remove close to 70,000 honeybees safely, and along with it, a whopping 45 kilos of honeycomb. Ashley said when they ripped into the wall, it was like something out of a horror movie. Now, as bees are very important and they must be cared for, they've now all been removed and relocated to hives elsewhere to continue their fantastic work, as they're vital to our ecosystem and also in keeping us alive as they're vital pollinators. So even though the bees ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, no harm has been done to them, and they're better off being somewhere they're looked after and cared for properly. However, Ashley can't say the same for her home. The costs of removing the hive ended up costing her over £16,000 in damages to her property, as her insurance company won't pay out, as they say anything which is pest-related is the homeowner's responsibility to prevent. So how does Sailor feel about everything now the bees have gone? Well, she's glad that the monster hunters, aka the beekeepers, have rid her of her nighttime anxieties, and Ashley is pleased to report the whole family has been getting a lot more sleep after their un-bee-lievable ordeal. It's alright, I'll see myself out. Here's a heads up for our next story, as we're going to be getting dark and talking about cannibalism. So here's your out if you need it, and feel free to fast forward to our next story, which is much lighter. Now, there's a lot of talk in this day and age about the dangers of the dark web, with podcasts coming out this year exposing hitman scams and data breaches galore, selling passwords and info to criminals for them to hack accounts and even bring down major infrastructure, are just the tip of the iceberg. Alongside the general criminal activities, something darker was allowed to flourish, allowing a body parts trading ring to crop up with the sole intention of cannibalism. I have to be careful about how I word things from here on out, because some of this stuff is pretty disturbing, so I may resort to using words to refer to things and you'll have to figure out the code, but I won't make it difficult to decipher, I promise. Now, in terms of body modification, I am obviously okay with people doing whatever they like to themselves to make them happy. I'm covered in tattoos, I have piercings, and I've even had my teeth cosmetically enhanced to give me little baby fangs, because those are all the things I love and that make me very happy. I think there is a great joy to be had out of decorating oneself and adorning your body, and for me, it isn't a replacement for anything, it's just adding to what I have. And I know it's weirdly controversial to say, not that it should be, but I quite like me, and I want to metaphorically hang paintings on the walls of my forever home, aka my body. However, there's some more extreme body modifications that just aren't for me. Things like eyeball tattooing, extreme plastic surgery, and anything which is irreversible. Yes, I know tattoos technically are, but I don't regret any of mine. But anything that I think crosses over into the surgical line of things is basically where I draw the line. I think some of these more extreme things look nice on other people, and I'm all for it if you get it done safely. There's one thing I do draw the line at, and that's amputations. So when I heard this next story, it made my stomach turn. So if you're eating, I would suggest maybe putting the food down for a moment. In May 2024, a jury at the Old Bailey in London was subjected to a 3-day-long trial in which they would hear baffling evidence. Before them stood defendant Marius Gustafsson, a man who was self-proclaimed as a eunuch maker. After hearing days of evidence which would have been highly disturbing to the jury, they found Marius guilty and the judge sentenced him to life imprisonment, aka a minimum of 22 years behind bars. So the clue to what Marius had done is in his self-given title, the Eunuch Maker. He'd set up a website where he offered extreme body modifications to paying customers, particularly of their nether regions. Now, it's safe to say Norwegian-born Marius was not a licensed medical professional, and what he was doing in his backyard chopping sessions was not legal. Some victims were just 16 years old, and the jury heard that Marius used coercive control and manipulation to get people to consent. Via his website, Marius offered a pay-per-view screening of each operation, but he also offered VIP access and unlimited watching for just £100 a year. Over the period his website was active, he generated over £300,000 from over 22,000 global viewers. He would sell the pieces he'd removed online, and he had a team which would work with him to carry out the modifications. Now, interestingly, he went under the radar for quite a while, and when a couple of procedures went wrong, he lied to emergency services and they believed him and didn't follow up. Now, it's not known exactly who it was that ratted him out, as the identity of the whistleblower was protected, but it's thought to have been someone within his inner circle, as they had access to WhatsApp messages and emails, and things only a close ally of his would. But Gustafsson was no stranger to these procedures himself. He too had gone under the knife and had some extreme stuff done to his body. He had removed his downstairs apparatus completely and had gone as far to have one of his legs amputated from the knee downwards, which will leave him using a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Gustafsson admitted to helping others who asked him to carry out the procedures, but the prosecution said this was just a thinly veiled way to get people to consent to more violent things than they were first led to believe, and that he exploited his victims. Others in the gang were also sentenced for shorter periods for assisting with the body modelling, but there were 6 others given time behind bars, ranging from 6 months to 12 years. Now, perhaps the worst part here was that often the parts removed would be cooked and served and then eaten. At one point, the jury heard how Gustafsson served a salad containing, shall we say, human oysters of the male variety, perfectly plated and sold to those who wanted to eat them. Now, I don't have time to go into the full case during this small segment, and there is more to it, so if you'd like me to cover this one in full on a future episode of Macabre London, do let me know in the comments below. So now, of course, here comes the big question. If people were consenting to these modifications, as did Gustafsson himself, then why is it such a big deal? Well, there's many factors. The first one, which seemed to have got Gustafsson put behind bars for so long, is the coercive control and the age of the victims involved being manipulated into something they perhaps didn't entirely understand. The nature of the procedures were also very dangerous and cannot be carried out by someone who isn't a certified doctor. And even then, optional surgeries of this kind wouldn't be something that would be allowed to take place. The strange case underscores the dangers of unregulated body modifications and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals for profit and personal gratification, something which could never be regulated or carried out safely due to the nature of the whole practice, which aims to make it an underground thing. Authorities emphasise that such acts are criminal and will face strict prosecution, and it highlights that if these are the guys getting caught, there's more than likely much more of it going on than we even realise. That was a heavy one. I just want to leave things on a lighter note and tell you about a potential cat time warping problem in Scotland. Next, we head to East Kilbride in Scotland, where a peculiar feline mystery has everyone scratching their heads. Over the whole of May 2024, more than 20 cats went missing in the same area. Local residents initially blamed predators or even cat thieves, but as the disappearances continued, theories became, well, unconventional. When the missing cats started appearing alive and well, except a little hungry, in towns such as Holytown and Motherwell, about 10 miles away from their homes, owners were confused. Some believe there's a time portal in the neighbourhood in East Kilbride which curious cats keep wandering into, only to be spat out further away from home. The mystery, which is yet to be solved, has seen local residents locking their cats away to keep them safe, in the thought that this may just be a petulant catnapper at large. Some theorise this could be someone working in the area with a van, which cats keep crawling into. Or maybe there's someone that's annoyed at the felines pooing in their gardens and they're relocating them. Either way, the cautious cat owners are still on high alert, and until the catnapper disappears, poor Tiddles will have to remain as a house cat. Thanks for joining me for that selection of weird stories. I hope you enjoyed them, and if you did, there'll be more along soon, so make sure you're subscribed or following if you're not already to keep up with the series. If you like the show and what I make in general and you want it to continue, then please consider becoming a Patreon supporter, like our executive Patreon producers, Christina, Christoph, Heather's Leg, Lisa, Mary, Ravel, Sally, Sam, Sarah, Terry and Veronica, and all of our other patrons too. If you sign up to Patreon, you get access to my other podcast, Having a Problem, which is very silly and very fun, and I think if you like this, you're really gonna love it. And there's also hours of other bonus content over there and plenty to come in 2025. If you'd rather just send a tip or a little Christmas gift from my Amazon wishlist, then I would massively appreciate that too, and I'll leave all the links in the show notes in case you want to check them out. An enormous thank you for even considering doing any of those things, particularly when I know at this time of year money can be a bit of a concern. So it really does mean the world to me, and I'm always so pleased and grateful when listeners like you want to help me create this haunted history empire we can all call home, and it feels very good to know that you do. Now, if you have a spare minute and you wouldn't mind, then do tell your friends about the show, leave a comment and repost my social media posts as well. It's all very helpful in getting the algorithm to recognise what I make. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I've been Nikki Druce. Remember to stay spooky, and I'll see you ghouls next time for June. And I'll see you ghouls next time for May.